Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are excited to have so many of you from around the state here to talk about school gun violence prevention. My name is Mia, and I'm a senior at Rochester Community Schools. I'm going to be moderating this webinar today. As a young person growing up in the suburbs of America, school gun violence is something that has greatly impacted my sense of safety and comfort going to school. I was in middle school when the Oxford shooting happened, right next to Rochester, and I experienced the wider impact that had on our whole community. Having to go into a soft lockdown in my own school and having family in Oxford who knew those directly impacted made it so clear that a single incident like this can change the lives of so many families. It's so it is something that in the past has made me anxious to go to school, knowing that it can happen anywhere, but it gives me hope that we are all here today to talk about solutions. As many of you know, we are here today to talk about Michigan's Safe Homes, Safe Schools law. This law requires that all schools, public and non-public, in Michigan need to share information and resources with their parents about how to securely store firearms. We need to normalize talking about firearm safety as a community. Growing up, my mom would always remind me that if I encountered a gun at a friend's house, I should make sure not to touch it and to tell an adult about it. Not everyone gets this kind of guidance from their parents, and in elementary school, I did encounter an unsecured firearm when hanging out at a friend's house. It can be scary, but knowing what to do helped, even at such a young age. These are dangerous weapons, not toys, and it's important that our parents know how to treat them as such. I was lucky that I was told what to do if I saw a weapon, but many of my peers don't have these conversations with their parents. If parents know how to securely store their weapons and are comfortable talking to children and other parents about firearm safety, we can prevent these situations. Today, we are going to hear from the departments who work on safe homes, safe schools about the basics of the law, and from school district leaders about how they have gone about implementing it. I'm excited to introduce our first speakers. First, we will be hearing from some representatives at the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Under the Safe Homes, Safe Schools law, MDHSS is charged with developing the materials schools will distribute. Nina Bowser serves as a section manager for the Injury and Violence Prevention section at the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Nina is recognized for her strategic vision, collaborative leadership, and commitment to amplifying the voices of with those with lived experience. Alicia Goodman serves as the Intentional Injury and Violence Prevention Unit Manager in the Division of Chronic Disease and Injury Control at the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. In this role, she supports the development of public health programs, collaborating with communities, healthcare partners, and local agencies to reduce injuries and enhance community safety.
Nina and Alicia, go ahead.
Well, good morning. I'm not sure. Alicia, can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here today. And as Mia, she already introduced ourselves. I'm Nina Bowser and Alicia Goodman. We will co-lead this portion of the presentation. So I will go ahead and let Alicia.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. So MDHHS provides services. We administer programs to improve the health, safety, and prosperity of the residents of the state of Michigan. Can you please move to the next slide? So firearm injuries are a public health epidemic that affects the well-being and public safety of all Americans. In 2023, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, CDC data shows that 46,728 individuals died from firearm violence in the United States, the third highest annual total ever recorded. And then an additional 34,587 Americans suffered unintentional non-fatal firearm injuries. I want to highlight the severity of the firearm injuries and the reason that this is important to discuss secure storage of firearms, and then also to highlight that proper storage impacts non-fatal injuries as well. Next slide, please. The impacts of the impacts of firearm injuries, both indirect and direct, inflict an enormous burden on American society when compared to communicable and infectious diseases. Firearm injuries often pose a larger burden on society in terms of potential years of life lost. In 2023, firearm injuries deaths accounted for 1,108,696 years of potential life lost before the age of 65, more than diabetes, stroke, and liver disease combined. I think what we need to really focus on here is the loss of lives under 65 years of age, the firearm injuries. People are dying from firearms that are younger age. And then looking at the younger population, as far as firearms are having a large impact. When you're looking at these metrics, it really showcases that potential life lost before the age of 65. Next slide, please. And we're looking at this diagram here. When you're looking at this chart, between 2010 and 2023, over half of all firearm deaths among Michigan residents were suicides. That's 56.9%. And then another 41% were assaults. These are fatalities resulting from unintentional injuries, legal intervention, and incidents of undetermined intent made up a very small percentage of firearm deaths. So when you're looking at this chart, you can see the impact of the firearm deaths. And then firearm-related mortality events were identified as a death with an underlying cause of firearm injuries. This is from the Michigan resident death file. And then these counts were aggregated data, and their intent was based on ICD-10 codes. Next slide, please. Then when you're looking at this chart here, it highlights that historically, motor vehicle crashes have been the leading cause of death for children and adolescents in Michigan from ages 1 to 19 years old. However, starting in 2012, firearms have frequently been the leading cause of death for this age group. This is true, especially after COVID-19, the pandemic, in 2020, when firearm deaths among children and adolescents saw a noticeable increase. In 2023, among those aged 1 to 19 years old, the firearm death rate was 5.8 per 100,000 compared to 4.2 per 100,000 for motor vehicle crash deaths. The firearms are trending up while others are trending down. So you can see in this chart, when we're looking at that orange line, it is going up. The blue line is going down, and the other lines are going straight across. So that's what you would take notice of, is how that orange line, you could see that it is increasing for firearm deaths. And I'll turn it over. Next slide, please. I'll turn it over to Nina. Thank you.
Nina, you are muted.
Sorry. I am muted, so I apologize. So before I get into what you see on the screen, I just want to briefly share a little background about the secure storage law and how we got here today. In February of 2023, Michigan enacted the secure storage law, took into effect. And really, the goal is to help prevent unintentional firearm injury, deaths, firearm suicides, and other incidents involving unauthorized access to firearms by minors. In December of 2024, the House Bills 5450 and 5451 established additional responsibilities relating to communicating Michigan's secure storage requirements to families of school-age children. So that created this partnership between the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Injury and Violence Prevention section and the Michigan Department of Education. So our area, IVP is what I'll call it for short. We were charged with working with and partnering with the Michigan Department of Education to develop secure storage resources for parents and guardians and caregivers of children in grades K through 12. And then MDE was responsible for ensuring that the parents and guardians and caregivers get this information. Again, this work is intended to make sure families receive clear, consistent, and easy to understand information about the secure storage requirements. So, why is this important? And Alicia shared a little bit about this data. More than half of the U.S. firearm owners store firearms unlocked. And the responsibility of fire ownership is not only about how, where, and when a person uses their firearms, it's about how they will store it when it's not in use. And then properly securing these firearms leads to reductions in intentional and unintentional firearm-related injuries, deaths among children and others, and lowers the rates of firearm death. And Alicia sort of showed you a little bit of that data that we've been seeing that's trending up. Safe and secure are complementary components. Safe means unloaded, and secure means locked up in a secure place, such as a firearm safe or lockbox. Next slide, please. And then secure storage of firearms saves lives from self-inflicted or unintentional firearm injuries. When both firearms and ammunition are stored securely, children have a 78% lower risk of self-inflicted firearm injuries and an 85% lower risk of unintentional firearm injuries. Firearm-related suicides among youth. One study estimated that if half of households were with unlocked firearms switched to locking them, one-third of youth firearm suicides and unintentional deaths could be prevented, saving 250 lives per year. And then another thing that I want to talk about, children and youth may encounter firearms not only in their own homes, but also in the homes of relatives, friends, and others located in other locations they visit. So that is why it's so important that we not only just talk to the parents and caregivers of the children or the schools or the children in K through 12, but we're also having those conversations with their relatives and friends and those other places that they may frequent, just to give them the information of how to secure their firearms. So how can we collectively help save lives together? Again, raise that awareness and increase education among families and communities, share resources that support families and communities. And then the most important one that I think is normalize the conversation about firearm safety and secure storage methods with both firearm owners and non-firearm owners. And then again, talk about it, share it, and elevate it, because safely securing and storing firearms saves lives.
I wanted to share a link also that has our guide It has a safe storage notice and what is the secure storage law in Michigan, the guide. So I'll put that in the chat. Thank you.
And then I think we have a Q&A session later in the presentation. So if you have any questions related to anything that Alicia and I presented, we'll be happy to answer any questions. And if we don't have the answer, we will make sure we get the answer for you. And thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Mary Teachout, a school safety consultant with the Department of Education's Office of Health and Safety. She is here today to speak on what school districts are asked to do under the Safe Homes, Safe Schools law.
All right, good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful week. I'm just going to briefly go through this, and if anyone has questions, we can talk about it at the end. So we can go to the next slide. As you said, I'm Mary Teachout. I work with the Office of Health and Safety with Department of Education. I'm the school safety consultant. So this is part of my job, along with handling bully calls, emergency operations plans, all of that kind of thing. So that is what I do at the department. So we can go to the next slide. So in talking about MDE's role and kind of what the schools are required to do with this legislation. So if you're looking for the MCL, it's 380.1313A. And that indicates that Department of Health and Human Services is developing the literature that you find on our website. And so that is their part of this, along with all of the other cool things that they just talked about that they do. They do have these listed in English, Spanish, Arabic, and several other languages. And I will show you that webpage here, is here shortly. And there are any updates annually have to be done to the document if there's changes in legislation. So this was starting October 1st of last year. This law went into effect. So the resources are required to be posted on our MDE page, which they are. We do have an entire link that I'll show you with the Safe Schools law. So looking at who's responsible in this legislation, it is districts, it is ISDs, and it's non-publics. So we're talking about local education agencies, we're talking about public school academies, ISDs, and non-public schools are responsible for putting this information on their websites and distributing it to parents, legal guardians of the students that are enrolled. The schools can decide how that is sent out. It can be sent electronically, it can be sent by mail, so you can do it by newsletters. Anything that you put out to the general public or parents and guardians specifically, that information can be sent that way. And districts are also required to post the MDE webpage to their website. I would suggest putting this kind of right out front, especially like with the data that their schools are required to put on their homepage, or putting a link off to the side to say safe storage information, anything like that. I would recommend it be pretty visible on the district's webpage. Go ahead and the next slide. So this is the safe storage law page that's on the Department of Education. You'll find the law. You'll find the documents that schools are required to distribute. As you can see, they are there in several languages. And it's talking about the safe storage notice that we're required to put out, and what actually is the secure storage law in Michigan. And then there are some additional resources down below that you'll find: the Be Smart for Kids, the firearm safety resources that DHHS has that are really well done, the secure storage law resources they have. The Michigan School Safety Initiative, U of M has some wonderful resources. So all of those are available on the safe storage law. So hopefully we've, kind of consolidated everything into one space for schools to be able to find it fairly easily. And that's really it as far as the Department of Ed and what our requirements are and what schools are required to do. The long and the short of it is they're required to get that information out to parents and guardians, and they're required to put it on their websites. So any questions I can take when we do the Q&A? Thank you.
Next, we'll be hearing from Dr. Brenda Goss Andrews, a member of the Safe Homes, Safe Schools implementation team at End Gun Violence Michigan. Dr. Goss Andrews is also a retired Department Police Deputy Chief and a member of Moms Demand Action. She'll be speaking on End Gun Violence Michigan's recommendations for accessible and effective messaging.
Thank you, Mia. It's a pleasure to be here today. During my 30 years with the Detroit Police Department, I saw the devastating effect of gun violence on children, families, and our communities, and I also noticed that many of these tragedies could have been prevented. Safe firearm storage is a personal mission of mine. It keeps guns from children, reduces teen suicides, and prevents unintentional shootings. And if our advocacy here today inspires even one household to store firearms and save a life, this work is worthwhile. The End Gun Violence Michigan Education Committee is focused on helping this crucial information reach parents statewide. You've already heard from other speakers. We recognize that many demands school districts face, so we aim to make implementation as simple as possible for you and your team. To access implementation of the law, we reviewed 594 public school district and intermediate school district websites for secure firearm storage information and its accessibility to parents. Our findings may not capture the full extent of implementation because the review was limited to public school websites and did not include any direct communications you might have had with parents. We do, however, want to share our critical findings. Our review found secure firearm storage information on 46.7 of public school district websites, slightly less than half. Unfortunately, we found no such information on more than half of the websites we reviewed. For the districts that have not disseminated information, we appreciate you being here today. Likewise, we are grateful to those already engaging in these practices who have joined us to share their information and their perspectives. We are eager to engage with all of you during our Q&A. This is an opportunity for everyone to share valuable insights, ask questions, or discuss successful implementations at your school. Our goal today is to make this information more accessible to parents in our school districts. So when we post on your website, we recommend a couple of things. Sharing the direct link to MDE's website, you've seen that today, rather than with flyer PDFs. And this is the reason why. This link automatically updates, allowing access to translations and additional resources throughout the year. This prevents your district from having to create the flyer every year. This will ensure that you have the most accurate information in real time. Please take the time to verify that you have posted the correct links. Number 2, posting the information somewhere accessible, not buried under unrelated pages. For example, we found some great examples of districts sharing information on their home page. Addison Schools has it right next to their welcome message on the home page, and Hillsdale has made their own website badge, and we love that. And several districts are making the information available under their parent resource page. Think of locations that parents are most likely to visit for other reasons and limit the number of clicks required to get to this information. 3, please label the information secure firearm storage. This makes it clear to parents exactly what content they are about to encounter. Of the 46.7 of school districts we reviewed that did share information, we found that just 26% of school websites did so in an accessible manner. Secondly, when distributing information directly to parents, we recommend utilizing the communications channels parents are already familiar with and visit frequently. Sending at least one notification separate from a regular newsletter and making sure it's not buried amongst other information. Also, share the information throughout the year through multiple channels, such as robocalls and text messages. Prioritize reminders before school breaks and holidays, such as winter break, summer break, and other times when kids are at home, such as Christmas breaks. Our website review also assessed common messaging used on district websites. In your website and other direct communications, clearly explain to parents the importance of secure firearm storage and why school leaders prioritize the safety of all children. For templates and support on trauma-informed messaging, we recommend using the comprehensive Communities Toolkit assembled by the Michigan School Safety Initiative, which we will share in the chat later. When speaking to parents, we find it helpful to talk about the impact of secure firearm storage by emphasizing the secure firearm storage reduces youth suicide, violent gun-related incidents, and prevents accidental shootings. And it keeps guns out of our schools. We also want to make it clear that even if a parent is not a gun owner, they should still care. The safety of our children should matter to everyone. Encourage parents to teach their children what to do if they see a gun, to ask relatives, friends, and other parents how their firearms are stored. There are many resources, such as those you've heard today and with Be Smart, to help parents have these conversations. When we looked at public school district websites, we found that only 17.5% of school districts with secure storage information on their website had comprehensive messaging. For example, make it clear that secure firearm storage is an effective way to reduce youth firearm injury and death. You can share those resources by looking at Be Smart and letting parents know where to get free gun locks. We know this is a lot of information, so we put together a toolkit for you that you'll receive as a participant in this webinar. It includes our own recommendations on accessibility and messaging, as well as the communications guide from the Michigan School Safety Initiative and resources from districts. Secure firearm storage is one of the most effective tools for preventing children from accessing firearms and harming themselves or others. We strongly encourage you to make safe homes, safe schools a core part of your school and student safety strategy. Thank you so much for being here today.
Now, I'm excited to introduce speakers from a few school districts who are speaking today on their experience and strategy for implementing safe homes, safe schools. First, we'll hear from Jason Salhaney, Project Manager to the Superintendent at Lansing School District. Jason played a pivotal role in developing Lansing School District's Safe Homes, Safe Schools, Safe Kids campaign.
If you want to give me just a second, I'm trying to get my screen to be able to share, but I'll get started talking. So I'm the project manager. I was one of the people that was behind putting our campaign together. Our big idea from the whole campaign was about that we built the foundation, and now we're kind of moving from awareness to action. So we started. Actually, I am able to share this now. We started the campaign not only because of the law, but we started the campaign because we had a lot of tragedies in Lansing, and many of them involved children accessing the unsecured firearms, which they were talking about before. So our response was three-pronged. What we needed to do was education, awareness, and then also have those resources available. And that was going to be year one. We knew this was going to be a multi-year approach. So the resources, we made sure with our Department of Public Safety and the Lansing Police Department that every school was provided gun locks and had them available, along with how to use them, and other information about why they're important. We also put together a Know Before You Go campaign, and we did one separately for elementary and secondary. That was kind of a checklist of things that parents can do before kids, get out of the car or get on the bus in the morning, just to make sure that, they don't have anything in their backpacks or, we're checking in to see how they're feeling, to see where they're going to be going after school, all that kind of stuff. So it was a list of about 5 or 6 things. We also created 5 or 6 public service announcements. We asked the superintendent, the mayor, the school board members to create these. And one of the things we're most proud of is Lansing has almost 90 different languages, and we were able to take these and find people that were native speakers in Farsi, Swahili, Arabic, and then English and Spanish. Those are our 5 main languages. So we were able to translate those into those languages. So it had a wider range of parents and community members that were able to access it. We did signage, newsletter articles. We sent out Parent Square message, and our social media postings were all surrounded around the same idea of just getting this message out of how important safe gun storage is. Our social media campaign actually took off. We had a tremendous response. So, what did it take? It took collaboration with district leadership, school leaders, staff, and our communications department. We're all involved in that creation process. It took about a week. I had a lot of the information, and so really it was a lot of putting the plan together and then having all these different departments kind of review it to see is it applicable? Are there words or different language we want to use? Is it getting across the same message? But because it came from our central office, we were able to ensure that there was consistency with the language and the messaging throughout all 26 of our schools. So some of the successes that we have, every school participated, every main office offered those free gun locks, and then every building delivered the same message, and families received that information in multiple ways. We did a lot of our stuff through Parent Square because it automatically translates into the language of the parents. So whatever tool you use, hopefully it does make that translation for them. One of the other things that was really important with a measure of success is we did a survey mid-year, and then we also did a survey at the end of the year to see how it was going, how many gun locks were given out, what kinds of feedback were they getting from staff or other parents or community members. We wanted to make sure we were hitting the right messages. So our biggest takeaways from the survey and implementation, awareness alone doesn't automatically change behavior. And so that first year was just really all about awareness, getting the word out, talking to parents, getting people to have that conversation of how important this is for the safety of our students. We also realized that one size doesn't fit all. We had to keep finding new ways to make this part of our everyday conversations. And again, one of those ways was those public service announcements. Having multiple languages really had a strong impact on making sure that everyone in the community was able to hear our message. So some of our next steps, we're going to do another kickoff this year to keep the conversation going. We are going to do more public service announcements, and this time we're going to focus on prominent people in the community. Maybe there's pastors, maybe there's business leaders, other people that we know our community will recognize as those leaders. We're going to ask them to create some additional public service announcements. As they talked about earlier, we're going to do some website improvements. We're going to create a landing spot for all these materials and let parents know and the community know that they can access, things about gun safety, how to use a gun lock, etc. One of the things that I'm really proud of that we're going to be doing this year is creating easier access to the safety locks. So when parents go on our webpage, there is going to be a button where they can click to request a gun lock. We think that's really important because not everybody feels comfortable just going into the main office and asking for one. So we wanted to provide a more, I guess, anonymous way for parents to access them. If we want people to use them, we have to find a variety of ways for them to get them. So just to kind of our final thoughts, it was a long year. Again, multi-pronged approach. We do realize that changes in behavior can take time. This year, our focus is really going to be about taking that awareness and turning it into action. We want to make this part of our normal conversation. It's not always an easy thing to talk about. We did realize some of our staff members did not have a comfort level. And so we want to make sure we continue to have these conversations because they're critical in order to keep our schools and our homes safe for everyone. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Next, we'll be hearing from Laura Dodd, who is honored to serve her community as president of the Huron Valley Schools Board of Education and Deputy Oakland County Executive. She will speak on the partnership Huron Valley Schools has had with local volunteers on Safe Homes, Safe Schools initiatives. She shares that above all, her most rewarding role is being mom to her middle school student.
Good afternoon or good morning still. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Mia, and thanks to the organizers of this. I think it's very important for us to be able to come together and share our experiences. So I'm the president of the Board of Education in Western Oakland County, which at Huron Valley Schools in Western Oakland County, which is a school district that makes up 5 municipalities. We are geographically pretty diverse. We have some very rural areas and some suburban areas, but we're also very politically diverse. So approaching things like this is always something we want to handle with great care to make sure that our community will embrace it and won't push back against. So, about a year ago, we had a wonderful group of volunteers with End Gun Violence Michigan who came and spoke during public comment at one of our meetings and shared more information about the Safe Homes, Safe Schools law, and also tried to engage with us to get us to do a little bit more than just posting it on our website and what else could we do. So after the meeting, we reached out and had a one-on-one meeting with the leader of their group, including the director of communications, community relations, and school safety and security for Huron Valley Schools, and me to talk about what do they hope for? What would they like? What would they like to see? How can we be strong community members? How can we support these community members and what they want to do and keep our kids and families safe? So in that meeting, we decided that really a few simple things that we could do to help amplify the message would be to include additional information in our district-wide newsletters that go out. We do them every month, and then quarterly they're mailed. So we put information out in a few different newsletters. But I think the more impactful thing we did that is a little more distinct is we introduced this group of volunteers to the principals and the PTAs of our schools to really have an opportunity to get in front of parents where parents are to make sure they have the information they need in order to help keep their students safe. So volunteers ended up tabling at a number of our community facing activities, including our kindergarten orientation, curriculum nights, other parent facing events and opportunities, largely this first year at our elementary schools. And at those tabling events, they had information, they had gun locks, they had information and resources for parents. And the response from our parents in our community was overwhelmingly positive. We really had zero pushback, zero concern, a lot of gratitude and thanks from parents because this wasn't information that they necessarily knew how to reach out for, and reaching out to the school may have seemed a little awkward or strange, but being able to talk with community-based volunteers who were right there and happy to share this information went over surprisingly well. I think the volunteers and the school board were really incredibly happy with how well this happened. And I think a big part of it was these were volunteers and people who live in our community who care about our families, our kids, and keeping not just our schools safe, but also keeping our home safe, keeping the kids safe. So, and they understood the makeup of our community. They understood that they needed to present in a very judgment-free way, that we do have a lot of community members who are gun owners, and our goal really is to help make them responsible gun owners and make sure that those guns are put away. The number one most popular thing that we shared and our volunteers shared was information about how to help parents talk to other parents about safe storage during play dates. So it's one thing to be able to store firearms safely in their own home, but how to make sure that when their kids are going over to another person's home, that those firearms are stored safely was a very hot topic, and more of that information just kept getting gobbled up and taken, and really good conversations around that. For growth next year, the goal is to expand out of the elementary schools where we have really strong PTAs and into our middle schools and high schools with this information. So with that, we're working on transitioning to athletic events, arts events, some of the other places where parents are there, they're welcome, they're happy to be there, because we know reaching middle school and high school parents can be a bit more of a challenge than reaching our elementary parents, who have a much more active role typically in the school building. So I think that's really most of what I wanted to share. And of course, I'm happy to take questions at the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. Finally, we'll hear from Chief Labert Jackson with Detroit Public Schools Community District. Chief Labert Jackson serves as Chief of Public Safety, where he is committed to building safer schools and stronger communities through education, prevention, and meaningful partnerships. With more than 25 years of law enforcement experience, Chief Jackson is a strong advocate for responsible firearm ownership, safe gun storage, and community education to help prevent firearm-related injuries and keep children and families safe.
Good morning, all. I hope you can hear me. I'm having all sorts of technical difficulties, so I am not trying to share screens. I'm not trying to turn on videos. I'm just trying to get this message across. So please, if someone can hear me, please respond.
We can hear you.
Very good. Okay, so at scale, for the message of safe gun storage, it is a multifaceted approach within DPSCD. We are consistently providing that information from the law enforcement perspective, when we do our individual presentations at school level, whether it be for a student approach, there's also a staff approach, and we also do a parent approach. Those messages differ slightly, but the message is the same. Safe gun storage is everyone's responsibility. Our tagline has become, your gun is always somewhere, make sure it is not in the hands of a child. Within our Parent Connect, there's also information that is regularly shared on our own social media site. We pin that message so it's seen consistently. As a society, we've become a lot less attentive, so messages have to be iterated and then reiterated and then reiterated to ensure that that message is consistently sent and also consistently adhered to. To Mr. Salhaney's point, one of the things that we are looking to do is to get feedback to see how that message has been conveyed, if that information is being received, and how it's being enacted. When we do our behavioral threat assessments within our agency, most school districts are required to outsource the law enforcement aspect of their behavioral threat assessments to whatever their local police department is, because DPSCD has its own police department. All of our officers are trained in the BTAM model of behavioral threat assessment. We also conduct home visits. Within the scope of the Constitution, we aren't allowed just to start banging doors down, checking to see if there are firearms in there. But in addition to physically having those conversations in person, we also provide resources, the information to the MD website, in addition to OK to Say, which is the state of Michigan through MSP's anonymous reporting tool. So that allows whomever to report information that then can be checked to see the credibility of it. We also have what is called Peach Jar within our district. It is how we share flyers and things like that. So that is one of the items that is shared consistently within the district. This is for us an ever evolving tool. We are looking to incorporate it into one of our public safety monthly initiatives, and what Safe Gun Stores looks like in the K through 12 space, meaning what the kindergartners through fifth graders get as opposed to middle school, as opposed to high school. Again, delivery slightly varies, but the message is the same. Again, because of technical difficulties, I'm not sharing any screens. I literally was just able to get back in the webinar as I was introduced. Thank goodness for timing, but I would be happy to answer any questions during the Q&A session.
Thank you, Chief Jackson. We'll now open for Q&A.
I have a question in the Q&A right now for Jason. How has the district continued to obtain the gun locks beyond the initial year? Where could we submit a request for a certain number of gun locks?
I believe if you you go on the website for the Michigan Health Department, I believe you can access them there. They also will tell you an organization that will do it. Luckily, we have a public safety department, but originally I simply went to the Lansing Police Department that they give them out, and I just asked them to order extra for us. So this year we're starting with about 250.
And we can also mention that Michigan State Police has a lot of gun locks at most of their posts throughout the state.
Another question is, are there any trainings being done for caregivers, parents, etc., through the schools on gun safety?
Is that a general question for answer, or is that for a specific school district?
I think it's general.
I would approach the local law enforcement agencies and ask if they can conduct those trainings, whether it be through school administration or for a concerned parent. Again, we have our parent listening sessions, and then we have just the individual PTO meetings that we provide that training there. But at scale, I would say most districts aren't the size of a Lansing or DPSCD. So inquire with school admin about what does that training look like, or if the answer is not to your satisfaction, go to your local police department and advise you'd like that training conducted.
Another question is, I'd like to hear more about the Know Before You Go parent check-ins with their students. What is included? How has it been received by parents, and what would you do differently?
Great question. Actually, the Know Before You Go was suggested by one of our school board members. I'm sure that everybody last year, it was a state and national news event about somebody bringing a gun into one of our schools. And so upon reflection of that, we thought, okay, let's give parents I believe it's like five different things where they can talk with their kids first thing in the morning prior to going to school. And part of that is, to check their backpack. We wanted to really emphasize that because as a former principal and teacher, I can't tell you how many times kids inadvertently, had their backpack. They were at mom's, grandma's, somebody's over the weekend. they come to school with something in their backpack that, violates policy. And then, there's discipline and all that kind of stuff that we feel it could have been prevented. So it really focuses on also about parents making a connection with their kids. And so we had different ideas and different questions that we ask our elementary parents versus our high school parents. Because we all know when you get into middle school and high school, they don't, if you get 5 words out of them before they go to school, you're very lucky. So, we tried to give them non-invasive ways to check in. How are they doing? What's coming up in school, etc. They are going to share at the end, I believe. Yeah, they just shared it. So inside of that, there are those resources, and you can see the examples and samples for both of those. One of the things that we're going to do this year, I mean, last year I think it was more just passed out at the schools, and so I think this year we want to do a little more education with the not only the parents but also the staff, how they could incorporate this into their newsletters or weekly messages for principals, something like that, so that the word can get out. We want it to be a tool that parents use, not just something they get a flyer about and then put it to the side. So that would be our one improvement.
Okay, the next question is, in a politically diverse community, how do you handle community members who perceive that the school district is being political by sharing the required literature and or prominently posting about safe and secure storage?
I'll take parts of that question. I don't think there's anything partisan about keeping children safe. And that's the approach that I would take, is that it is all of our responsibility, regardless of your political affiliation or anything else that some people may seem as something that separates us. Gun safety is everybody's responsibility. As the data reflects, we see what are the trends when it comes to children harming themselves, having access to firearms. I mean, the proliferation of guns, regardless if you're a gun owner, a gun lover, or you don't like them at all, we can all agree that the access to firearms has increased, and sort of the responsibility that goes with that has decreased. I think school districts that take it serious to get that information out are doing us all a favor. No one wants to lose a child to something that's preventable. The number one rule in any risk management, if it is predictable, it is preventable. So taking that approach, removing the politics from it, and just clearly stating the facts, and that information is guns do not belong in unsupervised children's hands.
And I'm just gonna pipe in there. We didn't necessarily have challenges with the political groups, but we did have challenges with our multi-language learners and families, since we do have a wide variety of immigrants that do live in the Lansing School District. At first with some of the graphics that we used through community discussions and such, they were offensive to some groups, and so we're still trying to learn those cultural differences in different countries and gun safety, and what does guns mean in their culture, to make sure that we're not offending anyone. Of course, you're never going to be perfect about it, but if we can try to be a little more culturally sensitive to the needs of those different populations, it's only going to benefit us as an overall community.
Additionally, I agree with Chief Jackson. If we keep our messaging, the safety of our children in our communities and our schools at the top of the list, I think our messaging always will be nonpartisan. No one will disagree that the safety of our children, our communities is paramount.
Okay, the next question is, are there any good resources or case studies that we can use to make the message more personal? The stats are great, but many people don't connect or find that meaningful. Personal stories / impacts do more.
One of the things that you can do, which is some may deem it morbid, but just do a simple Google search of child accidentally shot. And that way you don't have to go case specific. You can just look at the numbers. And that way people see that it is not something that is relegated to any one particular demographic. It is a epidemic issue, and that is firearms in the hands of unsupervised children. So if you don't want to pull specific cases, just literally just do a generic search of child accidentally shot or child shot and look at the number and the difference in the variance in cases and incidents that pop up. And I would just use it at what it is of just, you don't have to do specific case studies. You just do a general search and you'll see the information's out there.
Absolutely. I did a presentation this year with the, I think it was the Michigan PTA. And I did just what Chief Jackson said and Googled, and I found right quickly 5 incidents here in Michigan, including unfortunately, a police officer child found his gun. So it's easy to find throughout the country. But like I said, I found 5 incidents that had happened just in Michigan alone.
The next question is there an annual date for when districts are required to send information to families?
I think I can take this one. And Mary, I'm not sure if Mary's still on. Well, I know that the department has to update the material each year by July 1st of each year. So the original charge was by October 1st. Things had to be posted and provided to families. So I would say that around that final quarter of the year, July, August of each year, the information should be passed out, or at least if any revisions that need to be made on the website, it should be posted.
Okay, that looks like those are all the questions. But all the speakers will provide some form of contact information in the chat. So if anyone does have any further questions, they can reach out.
Did we check to see if in gun violence Michigan had any comments or any information to share?
I can speak to the coalition. You will all who are here attending will receive an email from me. Thank you again for being here. It'll have the recording of this webinar and it'll have a toolkit that I have been putting in the chat. I've seen some folks saying that the chat is not going through. So if that is the case, you will get an email as well. I will also copy everyone's contact information that's being shared now and send that out to you. Included in the email is going to be a toolkit. It's going to include a 2-pager with End Gun Violence Michigan's implementation recommendations that Dr. Goss Andrews went over. It will include resources from Lansing and Detroit that they have spoke on today in case you want to see samples of some of the stuff that they're putting out. And it'll contain messaging guidelines from the Michigan School Safety Initiative. So that will all be available to you all to make your job as easy as possible. So again, thank you all for being here. And we will look forward to hearing from you if you have any further questions. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.